Hey, this is Steven Platinum, your friend in wrestling, with Platinum versus AEW Dynamite, which took place tonight, November 18th, 2020. I'm already recording this right after the show because I'll have to watch NXT at some point because I'm adding a Platinum versus NXT and Platinum versus SmackDown this week. I know what you're saying. What the fuck, Steve? You're insane? Maybe I am, but I love talking about wrestling, and the people that listen to this show are very effusive with their praise and feedback, and so I'm going to keep on doing it. Before the show begins, they promote the fact that Pac is going to be there in a match. The Inner Circle is going to be there in Vegas in a couple of vignettes, as it turns out. And and the main event is going to be Cody, Rhodes and Darby Allin against Team Taz, Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. We get the Dynamite Open. It's a new Open. I think they even tweaked it a little bit from last week's, if I'm remembering correctly. We open the show. They talk about how December 2nd, they're calling it Winter is Coming. The stink of the last season of Game of Thrones is now out of the air, so we can start attaching ourselves to the cool parts of Game of Thrones again. And the main event is going to be Jon Moxley, the AEW World Champ, against Kenny Omega. So we're going to have a contract signing tonight. They also promote that they're going to do Young Bucks versus Top Flight. And then the match happens, which is weird. You could tell it kind of caught everybody. That's weird. That seemed to catch everybody off guard. So Top Flight comes to the ring. Young Bucks come to the ring. We have a video package when Top Flight comes to the ring, sort of telling us who they are, how young they are. One of them's 19, the other's 21. A bunch of clips of them in the indies. Really, really great. Really, and again, you know, the coolest part of that story is the Top Flight guys talking about how they just contacted the Young Bucks and said, we want to be in AEW. And the Young Bucks presumably helped them get there, and now they're wrestling them. Really great story. I think it really baby faces the Bucks out as well. Our commentators tonight are JR, Tony, and Excalibur, who will be joined at various points by different people to put over different angles. This show, if I had to summarize it, in total, was a great show to set up things happening in the near future and the far future. Really good all around. Just as I said, the show before Full Gear was one of the best go-home shows in recent memory. This was one of the best sort of bridge shows in memory, where it just sort of bridged things together, paid off some storylines, but only to continue them in a bigger, better way. Just a very solid all-around job. Now, do I still think AEW needs an adult in the room in many ways? Sure, but they're sort of unapologetic about how they do things. And in this case, I think most of the pistons were definitely firing. Now, what that's going to translate to as far as ratings, I cannot tell you. Because, again, you didn't have a lot of quote-unquote star power, but you had a lot of stuff being built. This was definitely an angle-heavy show. So here we go. The match is very good between Top Flight and the Young Bucks. They get a split screen. Top Flight really looks great. I think much better than they did in their dark appearance, honestly. They eventually lose the match, but TH2 attacks Top Flight for the Young Bucks run them out of there. So we're going to have Top Flight against TH2. I'm all about it. I think that's great. We get a rundown of the card, and then we get the Inner Circle in Vegas. We're already jumping into it. A bunch of silly stuff happens, but the highlight is the drinking bit between MJF and Jericho, where they talk themselves into drinking Everclear, and then are just the reaction to the drinking of the Everclear got a laugh out of me. Conan showing up and basically smoking them out in the limo was ridiculous, and Piff, the Magic Dragon, being there, who I'm familiar with because I do a show where I cover America's Got Talent. Please, I know. Ridiculous, right? But Piff is there, and it's just lunacy all around, and apparently it's not done. Then there's a great little video package about AEW and the Revolution and how they're changing pro wrestling and how they're making it in spite of all odds and all the great things they're doing with representation and the rest of it. Really cool stuff. Really, AEW is definitely doing a bit of a victory lap here, as well they should. Go to commercial and we come back. Moxley cuts another fucking good promo, the We're the Good Guys promo about his dad and how he's looking forward to this thing with Omega. Really good because it takes our eye off the ball of what happens, but it's just a good promo. Now we get match number 2, Orange Cassidy against Kip Sabian with Miro at commentary. Miro is actually not bad on the commentary here. He's really putting over the emotional side, trying to put over the silly angles that they've got going on with the best friends. That kind of thing. They get a split screen as well. And then the finish comes, and Kip goes for a finisher, gets caught in the mousetrap, and pinned by Orange Cassidy. Miro comes and wipes him out with a big old clothesline. And then the best friends show up. Kip and Miro beat feet. So no doubt we're going to be seeing Kip and Miro against the best friends at some point. Again, all to service angles. Everything they've done so far is to service some kind of angle. Commercial. We come back. We've got the contract signing. Omega comes with a great deal of fanfare, and then we're stopped, and then Moxley is back, and he's injured, and they're going to have to take him out on a stretcher. He's bloody nose. Omega kind of trivializes it. They leave it up in the air. Did Omega do that attack? Did somebody else do that attack? We don't know. Omega signs the contract, and that's it. So we get a contract signing without the usual hullabaloo, but a bit of a mystery. AEW always likes to have one mystery thing going. It's like, who hurt Matt Hardy's knee, or who did this? As long as it's not overdone, I guess having one mystery going on at a time, perfectly fine. We're back in Vegas, and it's it's predictably silly. Big stuff happens. They're still establishing the relationships between everybody and what everybody's like. I really liked the silly thing of Hager and Wardlow beating people up, trying to one-up each other as the toughest guy in the group. And, yeah, Jericho joins him at commentary. We're going to have Jericho and Hager against SCU next week. And we're going to have Pac against Blade next. Go to commercial. We come back. Jericho's no longer there. Now Eddie Kingston's there at commentary, which struck me as really strange that Jericho showed up to talk for like 3 seconds and leave. Weird. Again, there's a couple of things in the show where I'm just like, I'm not so sure what that was about or if that served them as well as they were hoping it would. Match number 3 is Blade against Pac, which is a very good match, very hard-hitting match. They got AEW Dark results going on in between, or while this is going on. We get a split screen. And the finish, where Pac at different points sort of gets cut off by Bunny or Butcher, and all that kind of stuff happens. In the end, Pac hits a shooting star to the back of Blade, and then turns it into the Brutalizer, which is like the Rings of Saturn, and Blade taps out. So Pac gets the win. Pac wants to talk to Kingston, but Butcher attacks him. I thought that was a great moment. And then Eddie's laughing as they're beating the crap out of him. Ray Phoenix comes, and he's trying to clean house to help Pac, but the numbers overtake him as well. Then Penta shows up with the chair, but chases off people without hitting them, which I thought was a nice move. So apparently the Lucha Brothers staying together, and they're with Pac, and they're formerly known as the Triangle of Death, which is a badass name. Then we go backstage, and Jade has put Brandy's arm in a chair and steps on it, and Brandy is hurt. What the hell? Excalibur makes sure to mention that Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero are running interference for Jade, which I thought was an interesting thing to point out. I thought Nyla Rose and Vicky had split up after Nyla had lost to Shida. Again, there's little touches like that I just go like, why leave it a question in our mind? Yeah. And next we're going to have Serena Deeb against Thunder Rosa. Commercial, we come back. Thunder Rosa against NWA champion, women champion, Serena Deeb. By the way, if the NWA women's title has changed hands and they've been so prominent on AEW, what does that mean about the NWA men's champion? I mean, nothing, right? What's the last time you heard about what's going on with that? So kudos to the NWA women for making this thing happen. And they have a fucking barn burner of a match. So fucking good. They get a split screen. Britt Baker at one time attacks Thunder Rosa behind the referee's back. And then Thunder Rosa gets power bombed and covered. I thought her chin hit her knee. It was such a brutal power bomb. But she kicks out. And then they do a bunch of other false finishes. Really fucking good. Actually had the match, even though I was like, there's no way Thunder Rosa's winning this match. They actually put it in doubt because the match is just so good. And at the end, Serena Deeb traps her arms and then hits her with a pedigree-like move with the arms completely trapped and gets the pin on Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa's mad. Britt Baker's kind of shown up at ringside to brag, I suppose, and Thunder Rosa goes out there and they have a fucking brawl, pull-apart brawl where they have to be separated more than once. Really interesting. At first, I was like, why do they keep bringing back Thunder Rosa if they're not going to do something with her? It seems stupid. Clearly, they're going to do something with her. Super cool. Good win for Serena Deeb. It's just a win-win-win. And like I said, between this and having 5 women's matches on Dark, they're directly addressing the most glaring weakness of AEW, which is the women's division. They are. Now, I will say, yeah, what's wrong with that? And then to further punctuate this point, we have a vignette with, or a promo with John Silver, and Anna Jay, where they announced that Anna Jay, who's now number 5 in the top 10 rankings, is going to challenge Sheeta for the title. And so that's happening next week. What the fuck? So women's stuff becoming more prominent. Cool. And we're going to have Pac and Rey Fenix against Butcher and Blade. Super cool. And Will Hobbs is going to be in action next week. And I got to say, as soon as they said Will Hobbs in action next week, I go, why are they emphasizing that? It must be something big happening with Will Hobbs tonight. But, that's just watching a lot of wrestling. And then Jake Hager and SCU, which was announced earlier. So next week's show, already booked. Again, AEW doing those little things, making sure things are promoted correctly, making sure cards aren't just booked at the last minute. Raw. And it shows. Match number 5, our main event, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks with Taz against Darby, who has a vignette of him being lit on fire in black and white. Ridiculous and super cool. My kids would have flipped. And he comes to the ring, and then Cody gets his big old entrance without Brandy. Nice touch, because she's supposed to be hurt after all. Though, again, if your wife got her arm broken, wouldn't that factor in? The commentators don't even seem to mention, Cody seems distracted or blah, 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 blah. Again, I think that would have been a great story of Cody's thrown off his game because of what happened to Brandy. But those two things never seem to cross over, which again, you need somebody to make sure that shit happens, man. It's important, in my opinion. They get a split screen. Of course they do for this match. And it's a great tag match. Darby looks really, really great. Ricky Starks and Brian Cage are made to look pretty good. Cody's doing his thing. But then that finish where just everything falls apart. Arn gets thrown out for losing his temper and throwing the chair in the ring and all this shit. And then Brian Cage hits the avalanche drill claw. So off of the ropes with the drill claw and fucking Darby and pins him. Now we've got a contender for Darby, of course, right? And then Will Hobbs comes to the ring as they're beating them up, and then picks up the FTW title as if to say, I want this. But then decks Cody. Aw, shit. Team Taz standing tall at the end. Woo! A lot of moving parts to this show. Some details fell through the cracks, but all in all, if you're an AEW fan, you're pretty happy because they've got a bunch of stuff going on. Keep in mind, the pay-per-view is not till February, so we're really building towards this big December 2nd Dynamite, which they're already billing as the biggest Dynamite to date. So, an effective show, and mostly a winning show, in my opinion. This has been Platinum versus AEW Dynamite.